That's what I have to say.
Hey?
So, for those of you out there in listening land, I just want to say that right as I was about to hit the button to transition us to going live and talking, Serena posted severely depressing news and sent it to me and Mike. So that'll come up later. But, so this episode we are blaming Serena for everything.
Justifiably this
time. Because of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So,
I find pretty depressing and good shit that you'll ever see on the internet.
Pretty much. But, this week on the Grind, we are talking about flatulation for some fucking reason.
Right?
If this podcast was monetized on YouTube, we'd already be demonetized. Just because I couldn't hold the profanity in, but it is what it is. Look, folks, this is going to get weird. It's going to get very weird. And I just hope that you're in for a ride this week, because wherever you're listening to us, whether it be at your computer, on your phone, while you're driving to work, maybe you're on a long trip or whatever the hell, you're going to more than likely be mouthing the words, "What the fuck?" more than once. So just fucking, just brace yourselves. It's a whole thing. So, let's go ahead and get started. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another episode of On the Grind. All right, Serena. Tell us about the Harley Quinn fart comic.
Okay, I recently read through the April Fools. I'm doing the quotation marks, so you guys, with my hands, so you guys can see it. Comic of the Harley Quinn comic written by who's the writer? Joanne Starr. Basically, the comic is basically Harley Quinn farting all over the place because she gets weirdly obsessed over her girlfriend Ivy her girlfriend's Ivy's fart. The first 2 pages is literally the second page actually. The second page is basically Ivy farts while watering her plants. Harley becomes weirdly obsessed over it to a point where she wants Ivy to fart all the time because from Harley's perspective, Ivy's farts smell like roses. Now, keep in mind, Harley has never showed any of these traits in previous comic book iterations or any type of media. So, Ivy gets, like anybody would, gets grossed out and leaves. But Harley, upset over the fact that her girlfriend doesn't embrace her flatulence, decides to go to a fart museum where the poem or letters of a Irish writer by the name of James Joyce is being held. She plans to use these love letters to, I think, to serenade Ivy into being okay with her farts or some shit. I don't know. She just becomes. Are you okay? Who did that? Are you okay, Mike?
Phrasing. Or some shit was not the best choice of words there. Oh no. All right, continue.
So basically, Harley goes to this museum where this fart museum, this fart exhibit, and tries to steal the writer's letters, the James Joyce's letters. Now, for what I can look into, what people have told me, James Joyce was a pervert who was obsessed with women's farts especially his wife's farts.
I believe that does track. I'll go look into it in a couple minutes here.
Which I don't think I ever read anything by James Joyce, and after learning that, I never want to. So Harley encounters a weird Dutch woman who she nicknames Dutch Oven, who literally, I shit you not, who literally becomes cursed by the letters, who literally has a curse put on her by her husband, James Joyce. No, not by James Joyce, not her husband, but her husband, who was a practitioner of magic. She literally ends up getting cursed, and now she's trying to break that curse. Though we probably ask, what is this curse? She literally has weaponized flatulence. There's a page where she literally has fire coming out of her. I don't even know if it's her ass or it's it's her like vagina, because the way it's drawn, it looks like there is fart and fireball smoke coming out of her vagina.
Oh, she's powerful queefs too. Amazing. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, she basically is queefing fireballs at Harley to try and get the letters so she can break her curse. So she besses Harley and basically runs away with the letters. Harley, now a bit depressed, decides to go to talk to Ivy again, who is still mad at her. Now, this is where it gets really dumb. They have a showdown with Batman, who basically says, now this is what Harley says. Let me read the dialogue. This is one of the pages. This is Harley. I can't believe you're making such a big deal over this. It's just a little toot. Men do it all the time. They make us ashamed. Don't give in to the patriarchy, babe. And then here comes Batman, who's basically in Harley's chokehold, basically saying, "I don't care what you do with your bodies, as long as it isn't against the law." And Ivy comes in with a roundhouse kick from the knee, basically screaming, "Men make the laws." So we got some out of date patriarchy humor or patriarchy commentary because fucking reasons.
Because of course.
And then Harley, I shit you not, I'm not making this up. So as Ivy is about to finish off Batman with her giant plant monster, Harley releases the biggest. She rips ass so much that it literally disintegrates the giant plant. Her fart has become so powerful that it can destroy plant life. This pisses off Ivy, who basically sends Harley away. So Harley is basically trying to track down Dutch Oven to try to reverse the curse. We got a panel of Dutch Oven literally farting into a boiling fondue, bowl, offering Harley some fondue. And then we got another panel of Harley trying to sneak up on Dutch Oven, but she ends up farting and giving away her position. And Dutch Oven responds after Harley gives away her position. I can taste it. Harley, the fondue. Dutch Oven, definitely the fondue. And then Harley basically meets up with Plastic Man, who offers to help her after he basically tells him what's her issue. Now, before this, there's a page where she meets James Joyce in like a weird dreamscape or some shit. I don't know. They literally open with James Joyce on his knees, has his face in her ass, sniffing her ass. This is what he says. This is the first bit of dialogue from James Joyce. Pardon. Let me put my best Irish accent. Fuck, I don't know how to do an Irish accent. Not right now.
Wait, let me see. Where's the page? Let me see. Like, it's in. Oh my god. Okay, so let's see. Where's James Joyce here? So after Plastic Man, okay. A
No, it's before Plastic Man.
little bit before Plastic Man.
Yeah, it's the panel
Oh
where
my
Plastic
god.
Man appears.
God, alright, I see it. Where the heck am
I
I?
want you.
James Joyce, get your nose out of there, you freak. Pardon, simply enjoying your rather fragrant romp.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
you
this
cannot
is reserved for
fucking
people who
tell
haven't
me.
cursed me. But is it a curse?
You
I
cannot tell
find
me
it.
this is not a fetish comic. This is a fucking fetish comic.
Ah,
And then you
God.
got another panel with Harley basically. How did a freak like you get to be one of the world's famous writers? And James Joyce basically responds, "Is it obvious? I'm a white man." Fair enough.
Ah.
Okay,
And then
stop.
we get Plastic Man and
Stop.
Harley.
Stop. I'm done. Oh, I'm checking out. We gotta
Okay,
get.
let me just tell you the fucking ending.
Yeah, because just
The
Jesus
ending is
Christ.
basically. I'm sorry. The ending is basically Harley Ivy makeup. Harley learns she's a lactose intolerant. That's it.
That's it. That's the whole joke.
You cannot
Unfortunately,
tell me this is not a fucking fetish comic.
it is a fucking fetish comic and a half. It is astounding that
There is literally no story. It's just shit happens and farts.
This is something that would be on like a fart fetish Tumblr about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't flinch. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, this all makes sense. Oh yeah, this haha, haha, farts, patriarchy, lamau. It's outdated, overdone, and it's fucking retarded. And unfortunately, I have to confirm that yes, James Joyce really loved his wife's farts. Just putting that out there. I'm not reading the fucking poem because he wrote a letter to his wife that in which you had an arse full of farts that night, and then that's how it starts. And I'm not reading the rest. It's just it's hilariously out of date, this comic, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is someone's fetish. And I hate that we're in a position where some editors just said, "Ha, this is a joke, haha," and then just let it go.
And keep in mind, the main villain's Dutch Oven. Her entire motivation is that she wants to be loved, and she thinks that because of her fart curse, that no one would ever love her. And the comic ends with a Plastic Man showing interest in her. Harley is written to have the emotional intelligence of a fucking 12-year-old.
What I need the Black Templars to exist.
Oh yes.
So I can just point them at this sort of shit so they can set it on fire.
Like, you don't want to read a book about lesbians farting over the place and loving each other? But Micah, it's progressive.
The no from me came at the lesbians part, admittedly. But beyond that, especially no. Like, it goes from... The meter goes from no to hell no to fuck no at that point.
Just... Who let this through, and how do we make sure that they don't have any more work? Like...
This is written by a chick named Joanne Starter.
Nobody hire her ever. People like this should be flipping burgers. Like, should be working at McDonald's. They should not be professional writers. What the fuck?
Because, I mean, it's funny as shit, but then it stops being funny when you realize, oh, someone jerks it to this.
Yeah.
And they got paid to do this, to, like, put this in front of my eyeballs. Glorious.
Also, this just the rapid decline of Harley's character from what it once was.
I just want to put in perspective.
Should not be together.
I want to put this in perspective for the audience. the thing that I was reading before we started discussing this was the book Vulcan, Lord of Drakes, which is a very, very, very wonderful Warhammer 40k book. And then we had to talk about this. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that Warhammer 40k is highbrow entertainment.
But it certainly feels like it after this. Hi,
Exactly. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. So, yeah. Serena, I think it's safe to say that you don't recommend this.
Hell no. Unless this is your thing, this is your fetish.
Well,
or kink or whatever.
At that point, I would recommend therapy. Jesus fuck.
Mm-hmm.
But have you heard, Micah? Kink and fetishes are a form of therapy.
No, they're not. They are legitimate.
That's what the internet says.
The internet is wrong. It is legitimately not that. It is not. It is not that at all. It does not. It does not actually help you in any way, shape, or form. Nor does it help you understand what it takes to become a better person. It does the exact opposite of that.
It's almost like it's designed for that, to like make you worse in some ways. Because it's a vice, and if you just keep fucking like misusing it, it's gonna fuck you up. Like it's ruined this person's like ability to self-reflect and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't like make a haha comic about the things that make my pee feel funny.
Yeah.
God.
Because like it is like a drug. You know, it's something that you drown yourself in. It's not something that you do to enlighten yourself or to understand yourself better. It's just if anything, it's just consistently miring your own mind in its insanity instead of desiring to be sane. So, moving on.
Thank God.
All right, so supposedly, okay, so supposedly according to Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Shadows is the bestest game ever.
Right.
And this, that, and the other. And supposedly they are going to make all the monies, and they're doing great, and everything is fine. Now,
supposedly.
Now this is obviously not true. The Steam charts showed that Assassin's Creed Shadows was not really doing that well compared to it had less active players than whatchamacallit, than the Dragon Age of Veilguard.
Oof. That wasn't well received either.
Yeah, they claimed that they had over 1 million players. Now, the thing about that, there are a lot of ways to get this game for free. And
there is an absurd amount.
And I don't mean piracy. I own the game. I didn't pay a fucking dime for it because it came with my processor. So if anybody over the last, I want to say 6 months, bought an Intel processor to upgrade their rig, guess what? You got Assassin's Creed Shadows for free. That we had X amount of players language. It is
very, very, very sneaky. Very sneaky languages right there.
Yeah.
So there's always this one principle I always like using. It's called the Pareto principle. So it simply boils down to where 80% of the effects are due to 20% of the population. Now, in this case, this game is available to rent on the Ubisoft like monthly sort of like the EA Play stuff where you pay $5 to get like all these old games. It's available there. And I'm pretty certain it's available on Games for Windows Live, or the Microsoft version of that. And there's all these little fucking services where nobody has to actually like buy it. And the ones that actually seem to have bought it are all on Steam, because you can't rent it on Steam. There's just no mechanism for that. I say rent because there's no like what else words are you going to use, right?
Yeah, it's the closest parallel.
It's the closest parallel. So it's available to effectively rent on the Ubisoft like monthly service. The game. I'm pretty certain it's available on the Microsoft version of that, and it's doing poorly on Steam, which means that anybody who wants to actually check it out is not spending their money to do so, at least directly. And every time they talk about it, they say 1 million players, but they didn't say 1 million purchasers. And I'm pretty certain that's led to why Tencent is now a majority ownership of all the interesting IPs that Ubisoft has.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's discuss exactly what happened here, because basically they actually don't own Ubisoft at this point, but they did buy a major stake in part of it. So basically what happened, the big thing is that for Ubisoft to keep going, and to keep a buyout from someone, which a lot of people had anticipated will probably be Tencent, they need a cash injection. And obviously Assassin's Creed wasn't it. So literally after that, to quote, this is from technode.com. Last Friday, French gaming company Ubisoft announced the establishment of a subsidiary focused on developing core gaming titles in partnership with Chinese game publisher Tencent. The deal, valued at 1.16 billion euros, so 1.25 in freedom money, will see Tencent take a 25% stake in the new subsidiary, which is supposedly estimated to be worth $4 billion. Newsflash, it's not worth $4 billion. It's not even close. So, and then it gets worse, because this is here's the kicker. Supposedly Assassin's Creed made all the money, right?
Supposedly.
Well, here's the thing. This subsidiary is going to handle 3 major core games: Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
Oh no.
Far Cry, and Assassin's Creed. So yeah, Tencent now owns a 25% stake in the game series that supposedly made all the monies. I'm sorry, but that does not fucking track. So, here's the funny thing. It gets worse. After the announcement, Ubisoft stock tanked.
Yeah, it doesn't inspire confidence. I'll be quite honest. To essentially give a foreign fucking like entity known for basically gobbling up everything it can reach.
Yeah, because here's the thing, folks. Ubisoft stock is very low. For example, if we were to go on to the stock market right now, which I actually have, I had the exchange pulled up. Electronic Arts, their stock price is $144.52 a share in American. Nintendo's is $68.70. Microsoft's is one of the biggest ones on the market. They are at, but then again, it's all of Microsoft, not just like the Xbox part. But they are at $375.39. Ubisoft is at $2.36.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, effectively
Ooh.
what has happened is the most that they have peaked at in the last year is $3.17. If we go back 5 years, it used to be around $20 a share back in 2021 during the pandemic. The highest
Which,
I can find is it was, let's see here. Before that, yeah, it's never been super high. Like the most I'm seeing is like $25 to $28 a share. So the fact of the matter is that, and a lot of journalists, because they're not smart people, don't really realize that the shares going. By the way, the tanking, quote unquote, literally was because their stock is so worthless. The tanking is literally a 40% drop or 42-cent drop. But that's what Tencent wants. Because this is the Chinese government we're talking about. They want this to this to fail. Yeah, so they can just buy the ever loving shit out of it. So yeah. Because let me put it this, and I want people to understand this just out of perspective, and how you can tell bullshit whenever it comes to this is whenever they say we have 1 million players playing the game. That doesn't say anything. Like, there was a bunch of quote-unquote players for Avowed. But there's a reason for that. It was on Games Pass. It was the Games Pass game, where there was no competition. The reason that this game had as many players as it did was quite simple. Is because it was the game that was out. It had no competition. Period, point blank. It had no fucking competition. Meanwhile, let's go over to a game that I'm quite fond of because it's so goddamn good. Space Marine 2.
Fantastic niche.
Yes. Space Marine 2 sold 4.5 million copies in the first month. Sold. That's the exact language from Saber Interactive.
They fucking deserve that. Game's fantastic.
Hell yeah.
I'm not just even being an autistic, autismal fucking 40K fan. It's just, if I didn't know shit about this goddamn series, I'd be like, dude, I want to be the big stompy fucking tank guys. This is great. Smushing bugs, fucking up these wizard dudes or whatever the hell these things are. Hell yeah. But like, I don't know what they thought they were gonna do. It feels like everything was like relying on like outside money to make things profitable, you know? Like BlackRock, investments of some kind, or this, that, or the other.
Yeah. It's just, it's one of those things where the language and the and everything else, it's super telling whenever it comes to this sort of an occurrence. And I have something I need to say to the game journalists specifically. Don't defend this. Don't defend this shit. I get it that there are people online that that you don't like, that were dogging Assassin's Creed Shadows. I get it. It happens. There were people I don't like that were dogging Space Marine 2. If Space Marine 2 had like a bunch of problems and shit like that, I would have I would have absolutely said it. Because I want video games to be better. That's just it. But don't defend this shit and try to pretend that it's a success when it's not. Because you end up looking stupid. And this is an occurrence of that. It's obvious that the Chinese government wants to get their hands on Ubisoft, and they are going to do it. They're buying up minority stakes in a bunch of places, but at some point they're going to basically take over a major studio. Because they have a minority stake in like Larian Studios, which is the developers who did Baldur's Gate 3. So it's like 20% of the profits of that, or 30, it's 20 or 30%, I don't remember which, went to the fucking Chinese government. Like the Chinese literally have their hands in all of video game entertainment at this point. It's kind of fucking worrying. Thankfully, none of it's a majority stake yet, because nobody will sell it to them. But Ubisoft is getting to a point where it's going to be desperate enough to do it. And it's just horrifying to think about. So, when it comes right down to it, there is this is exactly what we said was going to happen, what a lot of other people said was going to happen. And it's just going to get worse, and at some point I think Ubisoft is the target for them. I think that they want complete ownership of it, which they will probably get, because they could literally get it on for pennies on the dollar. Though I did consider at one point possibly contacting a bunch of people that I know have money to see if we could put a slush run together to see if we can buy Ubisoft.
For $10 and a fucking sandwich at this point?
Pretty much. If I was the president of Ubisoft, I would literally walk into their main headquarters with a boombox over my shoulder, playing Vince McMahon's theme from WWE. No chance.
No chance at all.
Yep. Just start firing people left and right. Just be like, you, get your escargot and get the fuck out of here. Fucking cheese-eating surrender monkeys.
That's worse. I think they're Quebecois.
Oh, that is way worse. Only Quebecois worth a damn is George St. Pierre.
Mm.
All right. Enough about the French. Serena,
Thank God.
what the fuck is going on in Australia?
Okay, so are you anybody here familiar with the dark romance genre?
I am familiar with it. I don't read it because I prefer my my lewd novels to be, not about fucking some awful shit like, my girlfriend like fucking like all her ex-boyfriends in front of me sort of shit. I don't want that. That's not escapism. That's some mental health shit.
Yeah, so basically the dark romance genre is romanticization of basically the unsavory aspects of romance, such as abuse, manipulation, control, basically any like problematic aspect of romance you can think of. It basically that can go wrong in a romance. Think 50 Shades of Grey. Someone abusing a power dynamic to get the girl, and is emotionally manipulating her into loving him. So what happened here was a woman in Australia got arrested. A Christian woman, no less, got arrested for publishing a book with child sexual abuse material in it. Said woman even said when she was promoting the book that she can never look at her children the same way after writing this book. Now, what this book about is the romance between a grown man. I forgot what the age of the dude was. A grown
Judging
man
from
and an 18-year-old girl.
from what I read of the like descriptions, it's like a 40-year-old dude going after an 18-year-old, and the 18-year-old is like
And
his.
yeah, the 18-year-old daughter of his best friend, whom he has been interested in since she was fucking 3 years old.
So at least 40 years old.
A 40-year-old man who practically has raised and been in the life of this girl since 3 years old, since she was born, sexually desires this girl since she was 3 years old, and now wants to pursue a relationship with her now that she's of legal age. And people will probably defend this by saying, well, it's not technically pedophilia because she's legal. Yeah, but you desiring a minor before they became a legal adult is problematic. So fuck you to those of you who defend this. So the woman, Christian charity marketing executive Lauren Teslin Masrosa, who writes under the erotic fiction pen name Tori Woods, caused online fervor with her novel. Because of the topics being tackled in this novel, this raised some people's concerns about the safety of her children, given how explicit and detailed some of the scenes in this novel is. Basically, she got charged with possessing child abuse material, disseminating child abuse material, and producing child abuse material in the country of Australia.
Now, I know she's Australian and she doesn't have the rights to free speech, but it doesn't sound like she really deserves them at this point. I'll be quite honest. I don't know how you could defend this sort of like dark romance sort of shit here, because it's there's one thing between like an adult woman being like manipulated and abused by roughly a peer, because I get it. There's certain women that are just wired differently, and they need to get their fucking asses whipped just to get their jollies off. But when you have someone who has like children and they're imagining and like fantasizing about this sort of bullshit, it starts raising a bunch of red flags real fucking quick. I'll be quite honest.
And Kiwan, this woman said she could never look her children the same way after writing this book.
Right?
Just let that thing in.
Yeah, that kind of drops some hints that this might have been a mistake. Not to mention, and this is the thing that, like, look, I very much believe in artistic expression. I am very much against government censorship of artistic expression. The thing is that if you're doing a romance, as was described by the author, a romance with hints of pederasty, well, not hints, I'm being very, very gracious, probably more than this lady deserves. We've gone from, again, like, it comes across like you're glorifying child abuse.
A little bit,
like,
right?
I could understand if you wrote, like, a thriller with this sort of a title, where the dude is portrayed as a villain doing something that is unconscionable, because that's what he's doing, right?
Lolita is a perfect example of how to do this correctly.
Because like that book is okay. This is gonna sound kind of fucked, but that book is hilarious because the whole premise is that the dude is an unreliable narrator. You're not supposed to believe him because he's a fucking liar. Like he goes on about how, oh yes, this relationship is pure and oh, she loves me, but then he very distinctly describes her as like saying, look how she sighs with lust when approach to make love, like with, "Oh God, not again."
Yeah.
Like, bro is like a complete fucking monster, and he doesn't. Well, the character
It takes
tries to hide it.
it takes a very self-aware and very, very good writer to pull something like that off.
It's one of those things where you have to, like, if it was like an American Psycho style book, I could see Brent Easton Ellis taking a concept like this and making it work, you know? But
Because, like, nobody's a hero in that fucking thing.
no. And in this particular case, though, it's like the fact that you're describing it as a dark romance. This is not romantic. Like, this is not, this is just disgusting. Like, this, the story should be like the girl trying to get away from this guy. And stuff like that. Like, this should not, it's fucking, it's
Putting
crazy
it
to
minimum.
me. Yeah, it's just crazy to me that like you would try to portray this as romance and things like that, and categorize it as that, and then you say that you can't look at your fucking kids the same. Well, maybe you shouldn't have written a book about some dude wanting to fuck somebody that he's known since she was a baby.
For 15 fucking years. That's ridiculous. If he was going to be a pedophile, he should have acted early. Oh, gross. Brain, you
Jesus
fucking dick.
Christ, Mike.
Oh Lord.
God.
Because, like, at that point, it's not romance. It's not.
No, this is like a really... The only way you can really describe this is like someone, like, grooming for the longest time. It's not romance. This is grooming. And I don't know who this woman thought she was aiming for.
I don't either, man. Like, it's just vile. That's my biggest gripe. It's just vile. It's like you could have written a different kind of story. You could have written a story that, you know, again, in a time where it feels like more often than not we are hearing stories about people grooming minors in situations kind of like this. You could have written a horror story about it that would have hit. Honestly, it probably would have hit, and people would have been like, "Well, this is really dark, but it's bringing up some interesting points about, how this is becoming more common in our society." But she didn't do that. She decided to apparently fetishize it, which tells me at that point you need to be in therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, you just summed up the entire dark romance genre in one sentence.
It is admittedly a genre I've never understood. I don't get it. I don't get how it has an audience. I don't understand it. I never will. And again, it's just like y'all need a lot of therapy. You need the
Minimum.
most therapy.
And Jesus.
Mostly Jesus.
Well, this lady supposedly had Jesus and still wrote it. Clearly she does not understand the relationship and how it's supposed to work.
Jesus looking down at her is like, I died for this. Damn, I should have just let my dad just fuck y'all up.
Oh, man.
Pudding. I don't know what to do. Oh, yeah.
It's been a problem with the book talk community. I don't know if you're familiar with like Book Talk, but they a lot of people like review books for like that like young adults and YA stuff. And I noticed that a lot of YA novels tend to have similar elements or
Something really
similar
fucking
dark
off-putting.
romance elements included in it,
Mhm.
which I find very worrisome.
Well,
Yeah.
the only thing I can think of is it might relate to like a biological drive from like several thousand years of warfare and people being taken as prizes over that time period. But like I'd like to think we're a little past that, just a little bit.
We're not.
But we're
We
not,
will
I
never
guess.
be past that.
Terrible. What a dark turn. Ugh.
So yeah, this lady needs
Need some help
yeah,
at minimum.
help in prison at this point. Jesus. All right, folks. Let's move on to the third topic.
Mm.
Uh,
Don't you just feel the love from Marvel?
Right? I mean,
Can you feel the love tonight?
no.
the way the Venom sing. Oh God.
I just want to like Marvel Comics. Um, I remember when Marvel Comics was like the coolest thing.
Right?
There's considerably more um how do I put this? Uh the man, I'm so confused by all of it. Marvel Comics is weird because ever
I mean, lately.
since when did All New All Different come out? That was like what, 2017? It was like right after the Trump election. Because it was like
Sounds about right.
yeah, because it was seen as a response to the Trump election. Is supposedly Donald Trump is big bad racist man, so we need to make comics to
Mine.
show that we at Marvel Comics are not big bad racist men or some bullshit. It was fucking stupid and it sucked and nobody wanted it. Um, it was probably like what a lot of people consider to be the beginning of the end of Marvel Comics. And ever since then, they have limped along. The one thing that kept them relevant in the comic book space in regards to sales, there was two comics. It was Spider-Man and it was Venom. Those were two of the biggest sellers that they had. Um, every Spider-Man comic sold, and then Venom was a big seller too. Venom was outselling Captain America. It was all the comics that we called social justice comics that they were trying to push. Venom outsold all of them because Eddie Brock was back. He had the symbiote again, and he was being fucking awesome because it's Eddie Brock. He's one of the best characters in Marvel ever. So, time like at the very least, like if you were a Venom fan like I am, you were eating good because there were a couple of runs that were pretty good. I forget the name of the writer, but things started to change when Donny Cates got his hands on the book, where he made Venom into like a symbiote god, and he tried to effectively make Venom into like a cosmic Marvel character, you know, and some people really dug it. Good lord, Micah. Some people dug it. I was not one of those people. I kind of checked out with that because I enjoyed the idea of there being a cosmic entity that had ties to the symbiotes in Null, but I wasn't really too keen on the idea of suddenly making Venom take over that role. Like, it just didn't, it didn't really make sense to me. Like, it kind of felt like, I understand that
Seems
Donny
forced. I'm
Cates,
not gonna lie.
yeah, like, I understand Donny Cates is a big Venom fan. So am I. But at the same time, like, it's kind of like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. So, um, but it played itself out. Then Eddie Brock's son Venom, or Eddie Brock's son Dylan was Venom for a while, and then they started teasing this all new, all different Venom. And it's not Eddie Brock because for some reason right now Eddie Brock has the Carnage symbiote, which, okay, um, just I don't get that one either. But regardless, just so they said that it could be like one of 5 people. It was like Madam Mask, Luke Cage, um, and a few other dudes. And
Rick Jones and the dude from Daily Bugle.
oh, Robbie Robertson, yeah.
Yeah, which
So
seemed like a weird candidate choices for the new Venom because none of them have a direct connection to Peter.
Or extraordinary beef.
Yeah, especially Madame Mask. She just doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
It was a lot of wild ass speculation.
and there's a lot of weird, wacky shit going on. Like suddenly, like they were doing reveals through it. Like suddenly, Rick Jones possesses a symbiote now called the Sleeper. Sleeper was one from a a one-off comic that um, basically was about the guy who held the Venom symbiote before Eddie Brock did. It was a Kree, and during that process, Venom or Eddie uses another symbiote called Sleeper. Um, and it's just fucking it's very weird, but whatever. Um, the the thing about it is just that they were teasing who it could be, and then they were eliminated them one week by week. I read a couple of the issues, admittedly not legally because I'm not giving Marvel any of my money. And
I know anyway. Fuck them.
yeah,
Weren't
but
they-
just fuck them. But the thing about it is that the only gimmick that this had, because Al Ewing is not that good of a writer. The only gimmick it had was you just wonder who's in the symbiote. That's it. And
they were kind of implying that it was Paul for like a good minute.
yeah, like they were.
Everyone thought it was really Paul.
Yeah, like so, and which case, like, here's the funny thing. If it had been Paul, and they were bound and determined to make Venom a villain again, I could see
That would have been fantastic.
that would have actually. I think that probably might have been a turning point for the Paul character, provided it ends with Paul dying and Eddie Brock taking his symbiote back. Because we are in the same spot that we were with Eddie Brock. I want to say like 15 years ago. So for those who don't know, Eddie Brock and Venom were kind of a controversial character. There was this weird thing where, for some reason, there was a bunch of shame around 90s characters. And by that I mean the ones with, like, anything Rob Liefeld basically worked on. Belts, guns and belts, belts and guns. Pouches, also don't forget the pouches. And for some reason, Venom got lumped into that. Even though he is a character with neither pouches nor guns. But for some reason, Marvel decided to move away from everything 90s. And we're going to go in And we're going to focus more on our older classic characters and villains, but we're also going to make them a little edgier, because that's what they did, and it was kind of weird when they did it. But, because they made Electro bisexual, I still think that that's funny. But, the, one thing that they did was Mark Miller, the edgy bastard that he is, killed off Eddie Brock.
Why?
Because Mark Miller's a prick.
Fair enough.
He never justified it or anything like that. He just did it. He just did it because he could, because he's one of those writers, admittedly, that he does not like the stuff that happened in the 90s. For some reason, he thinks it's the worst thing ever, even though it's not the worst thing ever. Eddie Brock was always pretty awesome. But, regardless, so Eddie Brock ends up not dying, but he's got cancer. And they effectively did everything that they could to have him not be Venom, but kind of be Venom. Like, he, because they ended up giving the Venom symbiote to the Scorpion. And it was a very one-note decision. I don't think anybody really likes Mac Gargan as Venom. They just like Warren Ellis writing Thunderbolts. That's basically it. Because admittedly, it was a good book. But then they get it off Mac Gargan, and then they put it on Flash Thompson, and we get Agent Venom. Now, Agent Venom was primarily written, if I remember right, by Rick Remender. And Rick Remender is a very talented writer. So he managed to take the concept and actually make it really interesting to read. So, but, there were still people like me. It's like, yeah, but what about Eddie Brock? So Eddie Brock ends up getting a different symbiote known as the Toxin symbiote. Because he was anti-Venom for a bit, so he was Venom, but with an inverted color palette. Then they took that away from him. Then they gave him the Toxin symbiote. So he was still around, and he was a supporting character of Flash Thompson Venom on occasion. Sometimes an adversary, sometimes an ally. And then, at some point, they bring Carnage back. Which I was stoked about, because I love Carnage as a villain. He's one of the best villains, in my opinion, fucking ever. But they bring Carnage back. But they still won't let Eddie Brock be Venom. Then they do a mini-series where Eddie Brock returns as Venom, and it is a hot seller. I cannot remember who the writer was. I feel fucking terrible about the fact that I cannot remember who wrote it. But they did a 6-issue miniseries where they were teasing that there was going to be another host for the Venom symbiote. This time it was a wannabe mob boss. And it was pretty well written. But then Eddie Brock showed up. And you're like, oh, okay. I know where this is going. Brock is going to get the symbiote back. And then Marvel just flat out said it. They're like, yeah, we're putting the symbiote back on him. And he becomes Venom again. And it's fucking awesome. The comics are fucking great. They managed to have a Venom and Moon Girl crossover. And it ended up making Moon Girl interesting. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That's how awesome Eddie Brock Venom is. You can kind of do everything you want with him. But anyway, like they avoided Eddie Brock being Venom for so long. And now it kind of just feels like they're doing it again. And what makes it even more insulting to me is that this comic loses its gimmick when Mary Jane Watson is now Venom.
And then you just get fucking mad.
Yeah. Because it doesn't make
Also,
any
I
sense.
heard traumatized by the symbiote, so it doesn't make sense for her to like be in Venom.
She was very traumatized by it. Like, the gimmick of Venom as a villain, when it started, was that he knew everything about Peter Parker. Everything. Including all of his loved ones. So there are scenes when in his first arc where he interacts with Aunt May, just making casual conversation with her. That if you were just an outside observer and you didn't know there was a killer alien on this guy, you would think it's just a guy being really nice to the aunt of one of his former coworkers. But that's not the case. It's obviously something much more sinister. So, what ends up happening is, it gets crazier, and Eddie could fuck with Peter pretty much everywhere. Everywhere Peter went, there was no way he could get away from him. Because Eddie knew everything about him, and on top of that, the Venom symbiote doesn't trigger his spider sense. So Spider-Man's precognitive abilities just go out the fucking window. So yeah, he scared the ever-loving bejesus out of MJ because he threatened her at one point. Now keep in mind, this is something that people tend to lose. How fucking big the Venom symbiote is. He is 7 feet tall. Or close to 7 feet tall.
Here.
Like he really, he kind of gets portrayed anywhere between like 7 feet tall, like sometimes like as short as like 6.5 feet tall, because Eddie Brock is 6'2". Anywhere from around that to 7 feet to sometimes even 10 feet. Because the symbiote is a shapeshifter, so but regardless, imagine Venom, even if he was just 6'5", looming over you with his teeth and that tongue, talking about he's going to eat your brains. That's like something out of a horror movie. So, yeah, Mary Jane Watson would probably be very, very traumatized.
Commence the browning of the pans.
Yeah, exactly. At that point, you ask your, like, so for her to suddenly be wearing the symbiote that scared the bejesus out of her and tried to kill someone who for the longest time was the love of her life. It just...
No fucking reason whatsoever. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. And it's like... I can't think of a reason why Mary Jane Watson would willingly wear the symbiote.
There's no consequences to wearing this thing that shares its memories with me, and just my God, I don't know how long Marvel's gonna last. I'll be quite honest.
I don't either, because effectively the gimmick is gone for this comic book. You killed it. Like, because, like, I'll put it this way. If Venom was Rick Jones, you could maybe do something interesting with that. Because with Rick, you could plug him into what's going on with the Hulk. And Hulk villains and stuff like that. So that adds characters that he can interact with that we don't normally see Venom interacting with. That could be interesting. Imagine if the leader got obsessed with symbiotes or something like that. Like that'd be pretty fucking wild. So So that's kind of interesting. If Luke Cage was Venom, like, you could maybe do something interesting with that because, well, to be honest with you, Venom is, like, considerably more powerful than Luke Cage. I
Hmm.
love Luke Cage, but Venom would tear him to pieces. He's just bigger, stronger, faster, and just as durable. But, you've got this new power, but it comes with a consequence. In the sense that the symbiote has a mind of its own. Not to mention, there is a gimmick with the symbiote where you literally have to have a diet of chocolate and pork, because if you don't, the phenethylamine that you need, the only other way to get it is brains, and you turn into a cannibal.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's one of the most rated fucking aspects of Venom, is that you need that brain chemical.
Yep.
Did they
They
showcase that in the movie?
They actually mention it in the movie, in the second movie. Um, it and just canonically speaking, it subsists on two specific things: phenethylamine and adrenaline. Now, with adrenaline, if you do superhero stuff, you're going to get that pumping anyway. Eddie Brock had a tumor on his adrenal gland, which made it secrete even more. And the symbiote just basically used that and kept the cancer at bay for him. So when the symbiote was gone, the cancer took over, and he went through his whole cancer arc. But regardless, but yeah, so basically Eddie Brock, as long as he has chocolate milkshakes and pulled pork sandwiches, he's good forever. Like Venom is a happy man. Or in some cases, Venom apparently really likes pepperoni pizza.
I mean, it is mostly pork, isn't it? It's like pork and beef and whatnot.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna put the image of it in our Discord server, but there's a cover to one of Venom's comics where Eddie is adhering to the side of a building, and it's done by Mark Bagley, so I love it because Mark Bagley's Venom is the best Venom. It's the Venom that the movie version is based on, where he's just sticking to the side of a building, have a giant slice of New York pepperoni pizza. It's great. There's a reason this dude is my favorite character. I love him, but the whole MJ thing, it's like, well, you're doing everything you can to keep her away from Peter Parker. So what are you gonna do with this? Like what the fuck? Like what is there to do with the character? Because at least with Paul, you could have turned him into a villain. You could have turned Venom into a villain again, and it would have made sense because nobody likes Paul. So he becomes a villain. You're just basically like, okay, it's all right, cool. Venom is a villain again, and it's Paul, and Paul sucks. So at the end of the day, we're all just waiting for the day that Peter beats the shit out of him, and we get that cathartic moment, and then Eddie Brock will get his symbiote back, and we kill off Paul, and it's all good.
Or no, we can't allow it to have nice things, I guess.
Well,
Marvel is determined to keep Peter and MJ away from each other for whatever reason.
I'm gonna
It
say
seems
this
like
right now. The Zeb Wells is, as long as he is at Marvel, the character of Paul will not be killed off. Because for those who do not know, the character of Paul, in Marvel, is a self-insert of Zeb Wells. It's just Zeb Wells with a different hair color. So they're not going to get rid of him. It's never going to happen. Because it's effectively Zeb Wells projecting the fact that he wants to fuck Mary Jane onto the comic book page, which is really
Friend.
yeah, it's super cringe. Zeb Wells sucks. He's never been a good writer, never. he was the least talented person to work on Robot Chicken. Least talented, easily. Seth Green carried that. But regardless, so Paul dying is never going to be a thing. But it's just like, well, what are we going to have Mary Jane do at this point? Because nobody really buys Mary Jane Watson as a superhero. And by the way, I love Mary Jane. Mary Jane is a great character. But
She works as a side character to Peter.
she's a support character. And by the way, like, the character never griped about it because she loved Peter Parker. It's almost like, some women that exist love their husbands and want to support them and want to be there for them whenever things don't go right. And
You
so
could
on,
have
so
easily had a story where she gets worried about whether Peter's going to come home through that door like a day, or if she's never going to see him again. You could have easily made the superhero Mary Jane work by having her team up with Peter on some of his adventures to keep an eye on him and to provide him support as a form of, like, basically giving herself some type of, like, relief. Like, okay, I know where my husband, I know what he's doing, he needs assistance, all that. That could have easily worked.
But and you could have done that, but again, they're for some reason, because I guess Joe Quesada still has some influence over there. I'm of the opinion that as long as Joe Quesada, this is going to sound really dark, until Joe Quesada dies, do not expect Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker to get back together. Because one thing that I noticed is, like, when, and again, this sounds so dark, but it's so, all I have is circumstantial evidence. I'm just going to say that. But one thing that you'll notice is that when Stan Lee's influence started to wane at Marvel Comics and Joe Quesada's started to increase, they tried to get away from Mary Jane Watson and Peter Parker. And for some fucking reason, suddenly there were a lot more mentions of Gwen Stacy. The reason is Joe Quesada, he basically, like, his ex-wife was his Gwen Stacy. I think he said that in an interview once. And when he got divorced, suddenly Peter's not allowed to be married. And suddenly we get Spider-Man Blue, which is all about fucking Peter and Gwen, because we need to retread a relationship that, by the way, Gwen Stacy's been dead for like 35 years. More than that, actually. And when did they kill her off?
Oh, God, that feels like mid-'80s. Just looking at the panel in my head, I'm like, ooh, that's like early 80s, bro.
It's worse. Try early 70s.
Mm.
So I want to put this in perspective for those of you listening. Joe Quesada will not allow Peter Parker to be married to Mary Jane Watson because he got divorced because he was a failure of a husband. So I'm getting really mad. But because of that, because he failed at being a husband, and he is obsessed with a character that has been dead since 1973. I want to put this in perspective for you guys out there. It's been 52 fucking years. There are people that have lived and died. There are people who have had entire lives. Gwen Stacy, I'm almost 40. Gwen Stacy has not been alive in my lifetime. I have cousins that are 10 years older than me that Gwen Stacy wasn't alive in their lifetime either. And for some fucking reason, this character that is 50 years old has to be obsessed over, and we can't get the relationship that we had for several years after that. Between that and Joe Quesada, it's like, for fuck's sake, dude, nobody fucking cares about Gwen Stacy. Everybody likes the idea of Mary Jane versus Peter Parker. The only comic you have right now that's worth a shit is the one where Peter and MJ are married.
It's almost as the fans are trying to tell you something. Maybe you should listen to them.
Yeah, and you keep trying to make MJ a superhero. You had her tied to Iron Man for a bit. Then you that's not Punchline. What was her superhero name? Jackpot.
Jackpot.
Like then you try to make her as Jackpot. You're trying to force Mary Jane Watson to be a superhero. You're trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen. That's Marvel in a nutshell these days. That's all they do, is they try to make fetch happen. It's like, dude, like, nobody fucking wants this. Nobody is asking for this. It's the Adam Jensen meme. I didn't ask for this. Nobody wants this. It's not interesting. You effectively killed your gimmick in 5 issues. Congratulations, Al Ewing, you useless piece of shit. Fuck!
Right? I think there's a button for this somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit it.
Fuck him.
For the sake of my blood pressure, I gotta end there. I gotta stop. I have to stop.
Did you get it all out of Micah?
I didn't get it all off my chest. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Mary Jane Watson is actually one of my favorite characters in all of Marvel. And to see that girl get done dirty so badly has been one of the things that just, like, annoyed the ever-living piss out of me. And it's like, I don't get it, man. Like, it worked. You had stuff that worked. And, you know, why do we feel the need to get away from things that work? Like, that's something I'll never understand, man. I'll never fucking get it. People just seem to try to fuck with the formula. And it's just so weird to me. At the very least, I will say this. Kirsten Dunst is Mary Jane Watson, and she at least looked like her. Like, there's at least that. Actually, admittedly, she was a dead ringer for MJ.
It's just fucking uncanny, not gonna lie. Although I did have a soft spot for the landlord's daughter, I'm not gonna lie.
She was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things.
I'm not going after her.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, though.
Having a landlord for, like, a father-in-law in fucking New York with New York fucking rent.
Oh, God.
Don't remind me.
But it's just one of those things, man, where it's like, Marvel has a tendency these days, between their editorial and C.B. Cebulski being a fucking doormat and all this other shit, and Sana Amanat having way too much control over there, that they continuously do dumb, weird shit that doesn't make any sense when you could just be telling cool stories with Peter and MJ. There's nothing wrong with them being a couple. There's nothing wrong with, Mary Jane being a support character. Other characters in other different places have support characters too. It doesn't say anything about society or anything like that. Women are allowed to love their husbands. Fucking knock it off. Jesus Christ.
Also, please stop writing your trauma in your work. I don't care about your fucking life story. I just want to read a good comic book story.
Yeah, get your trauma and your fucking fetishes and all this other shit out of there.
No, God, please, no more fetishes. Except Sunstone. the only fetish book I'll tolerate.
Just no more.
Hey, Sunstone? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Sunstone's great.
Oh, you've read Sunstone too?
Yeah. Who doesn't love a good tale of BDSM from a dom that doesn't really know she wants to be a dom?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Micah, sorry if we make you
I'm
uncomfortable.
just gonna sit over here with pictures of Spider-Man and Mary Jane and Venom eating a pizza and just
Being
listen
happy,
to the
you know.
listen to the song "Leave the Memories Alone" and cry. God damn it! I will say this: this is the one thing I tell people, and I do need to exercise it myself. Is that at the end of the day, if there's one thing to keep in mind, is that nobody can ever take your memories from you. And as long as you keep them there and you remember the good times, they don't really go anywhere. And the great thing about it is I can always go back and read the comics and, have fun with the characters when they were allowed to be the characters that I loved so much. And, you know, this is also part of the reason why Grindstone Arts exists. Is, Alex and I hated the shit that was going on in Modern Marvel, and more so Modern Marvel than anything, because I am an old school Marvel zombie. Old school. I've been reading Marvel comics since I was a little kid, and all of my favorite characters were Marvel characters: Spider-Man, Wolverine, the Hulk, the X-Men, Fantastic Four. My favorite villains are almost all Marvel villains. Like, Marvel comics just had, in my opinion, the better stuff. Nothing against DC. There's some great stuff over there too. It's just Marvel was always my jam. And we wanted to create the alternative, and we will have good stuff for you soon. It's just be patient with us. We're working on it. We're growing things little by little in certain areas. And I have no doubt that here in the next couple of years, the whole picture will be what I have seen the whole picture as will be coming to fruition. So, on that note, hopefully next week we'll actually have like something to talk about that's actually like really heartwarming or something. Because Jesus Christ, this was depressing.
It
So
hurt all around. Oy.
Yeah. So, folks, want to thank you once again for listening to us wherever you're listening to us at. Please do us all a favor. Have yourselves a great rest of your week. My name is Micah Curtis, the head of Grindstone Arts. See you next time.
Bye.